'Tis the season of the transfers. With the 2021-22 season over and done with, it's to the future for Arsenal, and the time to strengthen has arrived. So from Victor Osimhen to Gabriel Jesus, Yuri Tielemans to William Saliba, and maybe even a certain Serge Gnabry, the transfer rumours are flowing. So fasten your seatbelts and enjoy today's episode of the Transfers FC. Yo, what is going on, guys? My name is Bows14. How are you guys doing? Welcome back to your boy's channel, and I know it's been a few days, but oh boy, do we have so much to talk about. A cheeky little plug before we get into it. Your boy is only less than 100 away from 10k on the Instagram, so if you could get your boy over to 10k on that, the links will be down below in the description. I would massively appreciate that. On top of that, if you enjoy the content, don't forget to smash a like to show the support, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and help your boy as we close in to 90,000 subscribers. But getting into that Arsenal news and starting off with the pursuit of a brand new striker. To understand what strikers Arsenal will and can sign, firstly, it's very important that we understand what finances we have to work with. As according to the Mail and the Sun, the Arsenal board are set to hand Arteta £180 million, that's €200 million war chest, to spend in this summer transfer window. Shano Mac FC, here comes the money, and the Cronkies are giving that to Mikel Arteta, and with that type of financial backing, anything is possible, and in transfers, money always talks. The one very expensive potential transfer is that of Victor Osimhen, but according to Charles Watts, Victor Osimhen's agent flew in for talks with Arsenal last week, and the Nigerian striker is high up on Arsenal's target list this summer. The fact that the agent has flown over to London to hold negotiations, it says to me that Arsenal do have genuine interest. And even according to Freddie Paxton of The Guardian, he confirms that Victor Osimhen is a serious target for Arsenal this summer. Even though there has been no official bid, the player admires Arsenal, and the club are keen on the Napoli striker. That fox in the box 6'1" striker, fantastic turn of pace, and that movement in the box is what Arsenal require, in-box predator. I think he has 14 non-penalty goals and 17 in all competitions, and for his performances he was given the Serie A Young Player of the Year award. The biggest issue though with this transfer is the finances. After all, Napoli broke their bank to sign Osimhen in the first place, and he is their record signing. Not only has he excelled in his time in Naples, but on top of that, the hardest person in this negotiation is going to be their president in Aurelio De Laurentiis. This is one of the most stern negotiators in world football. Just look at Kalidou Koulibaly. If you don't pay this guy the money he wants, forget about signing any of his players. Price tag we're talking is up to €90 million. So for that sort of price tag, what you guys make of Victor Osimhen? But on top of Osimhen, according to David Ornstein, Arsenal will want 1 to 2 strikers, with the likes of Jesus, Tammy Abraham, Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Scamacca in the frame for the Gunners. And the common theme seems to be Arsenal wants a target man, big centre forward in that box who's got a decent turn of pace, who can hold the ball up, understands where the back of the net is, and is an in-box predator. The very interesting option there and there is Gianluca Scamacca, of course, in the Serie A. An Italian international who's 23 years of age, has scored 16 goals in the Serie A this season, standing at 6'5" in height, and he is a very techie player, and some fans see a bit of Zlatan Ibrahimovic. But as us Arsenal fans know too well, unfortunately, when it comes to signing Italian players out of the Serie A, like we saw with the likes of Manuel Locatelli in last summer, it's just very hard to get these players out of Italy. They seem very comfortable there. But ultimately, it's definitely an affordable transfer, so if Arsenal can convince the player, Scamacca could be a very decent option. In Dominic Calvert-Lewin, you have got one of the most controversial names when it comes in the Arsenal fan base. Some fans actually like him quite a bit and see him quite highly, and the fact that Arsenal still remain interested says that Arsenal also have him highly rated. But most fans seem to think after this one very injury prone season that DCL just isn't the guy to take us to the next level. In Tammy Abraham, he's a player that I also like. He scored 27 goals, 17 in the league in the Serie A. The frame, the pace, the hold up play, the technical ability and the finishing, I can understand Arsenal's interest, but this would be one of the most complex transfers if Arsenal were to make it happen. Not only would he be very expensive after just winning the Conference League and thriving in Rome, but on top of that, he's on a 2-year loan from Chelsea with an obligation to buy. So technically he is still a Chelsea player, so if Arsenal would like to sign him, not only would Arsenal have to negotiate with Roma, but on top of that with Chelsea as well. Talk to me down below in the comments. If you were to target a tall target man striker, your Abraham, Calvert-Lewin, Scamacca, Osimhen profile, who do you think should be Arsenal's standout #1 targets? In terms of Gabriel Jesus, according to Fabrizio Romano, he says he wants to leave Man City and he will leave this summer. Arsenal are still considering him as their top target. Not only has he worked with a striker in the past, he understands playing under Pep Guardiola, and when it comes to technical security, playing as a false nine and a versatile attacker. On top of that, Jesus is a very good presser. In fact, Pep Guardiola and Brazil's manager Tite have both praised Jesus as the best pressing forward in the world, and just 1 year left on his contract. In so many ways, Jesus makes so much sense. But as Ben Jacob reports, Arsenal have been in contact with Man City regarding Gabriel Jesus. Their fee will probably be in excess of £45 million, but in early talks with City, Arsenal have indicated that the fee of £55 million currently being requested is too high. For a player that only has 1 year left on his contract, even £45 million is quite a decent amount of money. But for that sort of price tag, I think a lot of Arsenal fans are still pretty doubtful. For a player that has only ever scored 14 goals as his personal best in the Premier League season, I can understand the doubts in the Arsenal fan base of whether Jesus is that striker to come to Arsenal to score the goals and provide us that consistent goal scorer to take us to the next level. According to Charles Watt, Arsenal have sounded out the possibility of signing Richarlison, and there have been contacts with his agent in the last few weeks. 10 goals and 5 assists in his last Premier League season was enough to keep Everton in the Premier League. We've talked a lot about that old school goal scoring number 9, a bit like Victor Osimhen, but I think Arsenal also wants a wide hybrid type of forward, especially with the potential departure of Nicola Pepe. I can understand why Arsenal might like him, but I think this would be still a pretty expensive transfer, especially with the player being under a long-term contract and Everton staying in the Premier League. But for an Arsenal team, not only do we need that wide forward, but we also need experience. Not just any experience, but level-raising experience. And I understand that Arsenal aren't in the Champions League and it might affect us in the market, but despite of that, it looks like the Gunners are going to be pretty ambitious. As Christian Falk in Germany announces that Arsenal have interest in Serge Gnabry, with the player imagining a return to Arsenal. However, after missing out on the Champions League, it's financially unrealistic this summer, with Arsenal's chance to sign Gnabry being in 2023, when his Bayern contract expires. Now the first part there is quite exciting, the fact that Arsenal have genuine interest from a reliable source, and on top of that, the player can imagine returning to Arsenal Football Club. Listen, I know that we're not at the Champions League, but I keep saying it, we're gargantuan. And of course, Gnabry does have unfinished business at Arsenal and has said plenty of times in the past, and once a Gooner, always a Gooner. He's posted photos in Arsenal shirt and remains a massive Arsenal fan, having left Arsenal at that young age, gone to the Bundesliga, and basically conquered football at Bayern Munich. We've spoken about this in the past, but Serge Gnabry is only going to have 1 year left on his Bayern contract this summer. And thus far so, Bayern are yet to extend, and it looks like there is some sort of disagreement in terms of wages. As things stand, Gnabry is on around £130,000 a week, and with Bayern being pretty strict in terms of the wage structure, they are not willing to break the bank to keep Serge Gnabry, and therefore the player doesn't feel quite valued. But for an Arsenal side that have worked so hard in the past windows to cut down their wage bill, the departures of Mesut Ozil, Willian, Aubameyang and now Lacazette, that is blockbuster wages off the wage bill, and Arsenal have spaces. With the current wage structure that Arsenal have, we would have the facilities to give Gnabry a pretty tasty contract if that's what he wants. And if it is value what Serge Gnabry seeks, then I'm sure us Arsenal fans can sort that out. And when you look at Gnabry's stats in the Bundesliga, last year he had 14 goals and 5 assists. The only reason why Gnabry would even consider coming to Arsenal despite of the wages is the fact that he has unfinished business at Arsenal Football Club. But now this guy is a genuine world-class player, and with Arsenal requiring that top experience in the big games, you talk about Gnabry's Champions League record. He's gone to Stamford Bridge, banged in goals. He banged in 4 goals against Spurs in the Champions League. Personally, I am quite on the fence with his transfer, but financially Arsenal could make it happen. We have the wages to offer. The player has desire to come back to Arsenal. Do you guys believe that Arsenal have what it takes to bring back Serge Gnabry? But talking about the Arsenal forwards, according to David Ornstein, Eddie Nketiah is understood to have changed his mind on leaving Arsenal. The striker was set to leave as a free agent, but is now expected to sign a new contract. The deal is not finalised, but duration is likely to be up to 5 years. Some Arsenal fans are pretty much for it. They see a 22-year-old striker that has shown vast amounts of improvements. And even when you look at his forward radar from the season, this is stats of a pretty promising striker, and I am sure that if these were the stats of a brand new signing, then so many Arsenal fans would just be so much more excited. It's not just about scoring the goals, but as a striker in the current day, you have to be able to hold the ball up to link up the play. And the games away from home, even when Arsenal have struggled, Eddie Nketiah has shown the fundamentals of a very decent link-up striker. The fact that he has over an 80% pass completion ranks him as one of the best strikers in world football in that category. But on the other hand, you also have Arsenal fans that are not so happy, and they think Arsenal are being cheap here. But when you're talking about being cheap here, ironically, the contract is certainly not cheap. As according to Sammy Mockbell, Arsenal have offered Nketiah a 5-year contract worth £100,000 a week, up to £5 million bonuses over the course of the deal. Now that 100k mark is a bit stretched there, because most likely the base wage will be around 75 to 80k. That 100k is only reached if the player hits certain requirements and gets those bonuses. But even at 80 to 75k a week, that puts him on a similar wage to the likes of Smith Rowe and Bukayo Saka. So fair play to the agents of Eddie Nketiah, but for Arsenal's sake, Arteta has always made it clear. Even before Nketiah was firing for Arsenal and fans were against him, he's always made it very clear in the public he wants to keep Nketiah, and now he's gonna get his wish. But here's a very interesting comparison of Nketiah versus Jesus in the last Premier League season. 5 goals for Nketiah, 8 for Jesus. Nketiah has overperformed his XG, while Jesus has underperformed. Nketiah has a vastly better minutes per goal ratio and also better conversion rates as well. That doesn't mean that Nketiah is the better player, but some Arsenal fans are now asking the question, if Nketiah is going to stay, do we need Gabriel Jesus? And instead of spending £45 million on Jesus, why not go out there and sign a proper big centre forward, prioritise that like an Osimhen? And if you're going to sign a wide forward, then don't sign a versatile one and maybe target a player like Gnabry or maybe even a Cody Gakpo. But where do you guys stand on Eddie Nketiah getting a new 5-year contract at Arsenal Football Club? Moving on to William Saliba and his Arsenal future. After last week, we had some very interesting quotes from Saliba where he kind of hinted at a Marseille stay after they qualified for the Champions League. But with the Arsenal fans worrying, today we have now even bigger quotes from the Arsenal manager Mikel Arteta, who has spoken to RMC Sport and says Saliba has to come back. He has the experience and the environment to be competitive with us. William was not with us because he would not have had the playing time to gain experience. That's all, there's nothing else. In loaning him out, we made the right decision. If he had stayed with us this year with only 1 Premier League match a week with Ben White and Gabriel, he would not have had half the playing time he's had with Marseille. For his growth, it would not have been good. And for the first time, I think ever, we've received a definitive answer from the Arsenal manager confirming he wants Saliba to return and he's a part of his plans for next season. But according to French source L'Equipe, Arsenal have decided to keep Saliba and have privately told him they intend to have him part of the project next season. They have also brought up the prospect of discussing a contract renewal, with his current deal expiring in 2024. And all this kind of indicates is the fact that Arsenal want to keep Saliba. They rate Saliba, and rightly so. I mean, he's the League Young Player of the Year. He's made the League Team of the Season. As things stand, Saliba is keeping shape during private training sessions ahead of his call-up to the French national team for their upcoming games on June the 3rd. Marseille do have the Champions League, granted, but they don't have the finances. And the fact that Arsenal have made it publicly clear they want to keep Saliba, this now falls into the hands of the Mbappe centre-backs, so as always, we're going to have to wait and see what happens, so let's keep an eye on it. According to Fabrizio Romano, Arsenal have opened direct contacts to explore the possibility of signing Yuri Tielemans, but as things stands, there are 3 clubs in the race and it is still open. But in the past, the player has somewhat made it clear that he wants to play in the Champions League, and unfortunately with Arsenal in the Europa League, will that affect the transfer? Well, not according to the reliable John Percy, who confirms that Tielemans is now open to playing in the Europa League and that Arsenal are set to make an opening offer of around £25 million. Arsenal is still a gargantuan step up from Leicester City. Arsenal have all the power in negotiations, so it's now over to the likes of Richard Garlick and Edu Gaspar. If they really want Tielemans, then I really don't see why Arsenal can't get it signed, sealed and delivered as soon as possible. Breaking news, official and confirmed. Mohamed El Neni has signed a brand new 1-year contract with Arsenal Football Club with an option to extend. I think some Arsenal fans don't think he's the quality, and I do understand that, but I don't think next year he's going to be Arsenal's second choice or even third choice. He's not on massive wages, he's a very good guy for the dressing room, and more importantly, the World Cup is around the corner, and I don't think fans quite understand. To break the season apart in January, to go to a World Cup, it's going to be so hard on these players' bodies. The likes of Xhaka and Partey are going to the World Cup. You then add the extra games from the Europa League, and with that amount of games there, I think keeping a player like El Neni on just a 1-year contract isn't the worst of options. but that is just moving on to the other Arsenal news today, and starting off with an Arsenal youngster that has thrived in League One for Lincoln City, and that was Brook Norton. And for his performances, he's been named the 2021-22 Premier League Scholar of the Year. One of the best Arsenal youngsters out there as it stands. He is of course a right back, and I think next year, with Tomiyasu being pretty injury prone, Bayern making it pretty clear that he wants to stay in Real Betis. If Arsenal don't sign a brand new right back, I think don't be surprised, especially in the Europa League, if we see a breakthrough from Brook Norton. But that is the video there and there, so if you guys have enjoyed, you know the business, go down there, smash a like, subscribe if you are new. Follow your boy on all of those social medias, in particular your boy's Instagram. Get your boy to 10k, I'd really appreciate that. But that was all of today's Arsenal news, and Transfers FC is now upon us, and I understand the disappointment from last season, but there is some level of excitement, as there always is when it comes to transfers. So let's see what Arsenal do. It's going to be very interesting, and we're going to have to wait and see. Until then, take care of yourselves, keep smiling, and in a bit.